In this video, we are going to explore bracelet making with forks, and that's going to include the curling of the tines. What you're going to need for this project, obviously other than a fork, is going to be your mallet and a variety of tools for bending. I have a 1/2-inch copper pipe. You can use really any small pipe. I have an assortment of round nose pliers here. This is a nylon jaw plier. This is great for helping prevent tool marks. Then I also have a bail making plier. We're going to be talking about tine curling for a couple of different kinds of designs. One is a flat design where the tines lay flat against the wrist, and the other is going to be a design that is more 3D, where the tines do not lay flat against the wrist, and this is where we're going to put some sort of embellishment. Show you a number of different designs here. There's one that has a stone embellishment on it. And what I'm going to be showing you today is the type where the tines are not flat. You can use the techniques that I'm going to be showing you for either the flat bracelet or the one where you can use the fork and add an embellishment to it. I've chosen some things out of my supplies that I'm going to look at as far as adding to my fork when I complete the tine curling. Just some different things that I have laying around, and we'll choose one of those when we get to that point. Not every fork is suitable for this process. If you want to have a long curly tine, you really won't want to choose something that has short tines because you can only get just so much curl out of short tines. Something with long tines is going to give you more of a free-flowing effect. I wouldn't choose a fork that's extremely heavy either, because when it comes to bending this portion here, if the fork is too heavy, you're going to find it nearly impossible, even with the bender, to get that to bend in the other direction. So I would not recommend that you would use anything stainless steel. You're going to want to stick with silver plated or sterling for this project. And what you need to do is to start out by flattening your fork and doing a pre-polish on it. The pre-polish before bending is important because once the tines are curled, it's very difficult to get in and around those curls and polish every single area. So I'm going to go ahead and do the pre-polishing on that and flatten that on my anvil, and then we'll get started on the curling. I have pre-polished and flattened this fork, and I'm going to put it into my vise. Now, I've padded my vise jaws with these items, and they're called padded vise jaws, and they have a magnet in them, and they stick right into most any vise. I purchased these at Lowe's. You probably can find them at a local hardware store in your area. I believe you can purchase them online as well. We're going to secure the fork very firmly in between the padded jaws there. We're going to start by bending this tine with the copper pipe. The copper pipe is not going to leave tool marks, so it's a great tool to use to do your tine manipulating when you're doing a really large bend like we do initially. Holding it down firmly to the base of the fork, draw the pipe downwards. You want to get your bends down real close to the area where they join the rest of the fork. The padded nylon tip jaws on this plier, again, are a great tool because they're not going to leave tool marks. So this is definitely a tool that we want to use. So I've kind of determined what I want to do initially, and so I'm just going to go ahead and do the curling. And I'll be talking to you about some of the things that I think are important as we go along. I don't anneal the forks, generally speaking, when I do the tine curling. And I definitely have a reason why I don't. And that is because although it will make it easier to do the bending, it also increases the amount of tool marks that you get on the fork. You've softened the metal, therefore the tool marks will be more readily accepted on the metal. So I try not to do any annealing on fork tines prior to bending. Now you can see it was just a matter of manipulating the tine back and forth and back and forth. And I'm going to want to bring that down. I think it's important to have at least somewhat in your mind a predetermined design. And the reason I say that is because when you start bending a tine, and say you change your mind, say I changed my mind and I decided I wanted to bring that in the other direction, I run a very high risk of snapping that tine off. So I think it's important to have a design in your mind and go from there, either from a picture or from something you've already just determined ahead of time. If it helps to thumbnail your designs on paper, then I would say by all means go ahead and do that. And also, it's important to smooth the tips of your fork. If you're not going to curl the ends in tight like this here, if you're going to have them kind of a free flow, you want to have those tips smoothed and buffed down so they don't catch on clothing or poke the skin. For this design, I'm going to curl my tips in so they will not catch on clothing. Okay, I'm happy with the way that first one looks there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move now to the end tine, and again holding the pipe down close to the base, bend that tine. And I'm going to do something real similar to what I just did on the first one, and bend down. These are getting pretty chewed up, these nylon tips. They are replaceable. Most of the places that you buy this type of plier, you can get replacement tips. Bail making pliers are a nice choice too. If you want to make a bigger loop, you can use one of the different mandrel sizes there, because it will just kind of go right around that mandrel and create that same size bend. So just moving back and forth between my tools to create my design. Now if you're going to create a flat design, use these same methods that I'm showing you today to create your flat design. And I'm going to tighten that loop up. I think that these real fine round nose pliers are good for wrapping the ends in tightly. something gets away from you, just bend it back. I really have to use two hands when I bend the curls, just because of the arthritis in my hands. I really don't have the grip strength that I need. So I find using both hands to help me manipulate the tines works better for me. Okay, now we're going to go to the third tine over, and I'm going to bend that again, keeping the pipe low and tight. Bend down. What we're trying to do is create like a little pocket in here that's going to hold our embellishment. So what I'm going to do, I'll bring this down a little bit further with my nylon jaw plier. Then I think I'll go over. Sorry, I'm trying to do this without interfering with the camera so you can see everything that I'm doing. Let's see, I think I'm going to turn it that way a little bit. Still want to bring that down further. Okay. And I'm going to bring this over and curl the end into a tight loop. Again, it's trying to get away from me. Just straighten it up. If you feel you can't get that tight into a loop, just use your nylon jaw pliers and squeeze until they touch together. Okay, this last tine is going to be bent in a different direction because it really needs something to curve over the wrist slightly. That we're going to curve over the wrist slightly. We're going to manipulate that. So when it lays on the wrist, it kind of creates a hook. And I think what I'll do is I will go this direction. And I go a little bit further that way. And then I'm going to come back, move it up a little bit, come back. Straighten that up, and let's see. I think I'm going to bring that around. Again, I'm going to tighten that end up. You can use your mini grinder to remove the tip, the sharp tip, if you'd like. Or again, if you curl them in real tight, you really won't have too much issue. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with the way that that looks. And now I'm going to try some of the embellishments and see which one I'm going to use for the bracelet. I don't know that I ever really determined in the beginning what I want to use. I more just fit things in and see what I like the best. Whether it's a stone, or in this case a butterfly. This is just an acrylic butterfly. And that's kind of cute there. A piece of turquoise. And then I just keep looking until something strikes my fancy. I actually think I'm going to go with this piece here. So what I'm going to need to do is I really want those tines to come down and hug the piece tightly. We are going to epoxy the piece on, but I think it's important to have those tines tight against the piece as well. I think it looks nicer, and you're going to have less chance of it catching on your customer's clothing. Just going to bring that up a little higher so I have room to fit my stone in there. It's not actually a stone, it's just a pretty embellishment. So this needs to be tightened up here. And bring that down. You don't have to have it perfectly tight, but I think you want to have a fair amount of those tines touching your embellishment. And just play with it till you find something that you like. This time's fitting really nice. I'll bend this one a little bit backwards. And this one's going to come down some more. That actually fits pretty good right in there. I think maybe I'm going to bring this down a little bit. Just play with it till you feel comfortable with what you've done. And I actually think that fits really nice right in there. So that's the embellishment that we're going to use. We're going to go on to the portion where we're going to bend this fork to create the cuff now. Now we're going to bend what we've just created in the bender. You're going to set up your bender using just the T-back. And obviously we're not going to be able to bend this portion in the bender, but that's perfectly fine because we really don't need to. We don't want this portion to have a big curve in it. Otherwise our embellishment is not going to lie flat. We want to curve the rest of this to go around the wrist, and then this will come down to complete the cuff shape. So you're going to insert this in your bender. Let's see, we'll go from this direction. Insert it in as far as it will go. There in the back. And actually, let's do it the other way, just so it's easier for you guys to see. You can do it either direction, it doesn't matter which way. So you're going to push it up as far as it will go. And tighten that down using your bender wrench. Really shouldn't have any problems with slipping, just because there's no way that that can slide back through. Not with the bulkiness that you have there. You still do want to tighten that down nicely. And depending on the length of your fork, you may be able to do this bend in one or in two passes. Some of the smaller forks you'll be able to do in one pass, and some of the longer forks you're going to have to do in two passes. I think we can get away with one pass. I'm just bend that down out of the way a little bit, and I'm going to come down. I think we actually are going to have to, I'm going to roll that back a little bit because I want to get that tip bent a little bit more. Don't worry about bending too tight of a curve to start with, because you can use your hands to stretch that out a little bit. So I'm just going to loosen that up. I'm going to roll this back, and then I'm going to tighten down again. Just want that tip bent a little bit more. you need to pull this down a little bit, no problem. Go ahead and do that. And we're going to bring the pressure roller down tightly here so we can just finish that little bit of tip that we had left. And then we're going to loosen everything up to release the bracelet. Okay, now you're just going to do a little bit of your shaping by hand. Till you get that more into a cuff shape. Alright, any manipulating that you need to do, just go ahead and do that by hand. Now we're going to take this part and we're going to bend that down so it fits the wrist better. That you're just going to use your pliers. Just trying to create a cuff shape here. Again, this is going to be flat. That's perfectly fine. That's what you want. And try it on. See how it fits. This still needs to be a little flatter in my opinion. So I'm going to bring that down further. These, I believe, are more well suited to sit up higher on the arm. But, you know, obviously you do what you feel is right. You do for your jewelry and for your customers. So, that actually is laying pretty good right there. You can wear it that way, or you have to stretch a little bit to get your arm out. Or you could wear it that way. Kind of neat like that. So you can see the outer edge of the handle and that tine there. I think I might just bend that tine a little bit more. I want to straighten that up a little bit more. And just play with it until you feel comfortable with what you've made. Yeah, I think that actually fits pretty good right like that. So your next step is going to be to clean up any tool marks that you've created, and we're going to move over to the mini grinder so I can show that to you. I think that just like anything else, when you're learning something new, you're going to get frustrated, and I think with fork tine bending, some of the frustration lies in creating the tool marks. The more you do it and the better you get at it, the less tool marks you're going to leave over time. And I'm going to show you a couple of methods you can use for removing those tool marks. I'm not sure exactly how much you can see, but there really isn't very many tool marks here. If you already have your design developed in your head, there's going to be less chance of tool marks because you're going to be able to bend, and not play around a lot. The more you play around and try and manipulate the tines, the more you're going to create tool marks. So I think it's important to have your design already set in your head. So, but for the little tool marks that we have, mostly here on the tips, I'm going to use the mini grinder to smooth that down. Now keep in mind that the fiber wheel is an abrasive wheel, and if you leave it on the fiber wheel too long, you will take the silver plating off. So we're really only going to touch that lightly, just where we have the tool marks. This is also going to polish at the same time. If you take off some of the plating, don't throw it away. You'd be surprised how many customers really like that more weathered and worn look. A piece that you may not be happy with, another customer may absolutely love. So, actually looks pretty good there. Now there's also another way that you can remove tool marks, and that's with rubber abrasive wheels. This set you can purchase at widgetsupply.com. It comes with 3 different grits, and these wheels are a rubber wheel that's been impregnated with a grit, so they are abrasive. Again, because they are abrasive, they do you will be able to take off the plating if you do too much manipulation with them. Always start with the least abrasive of the different choices here, which in this case is going to be the blue. You're going to use these on your flex shaft Dremel tool and remove the tool marks there. So at this point, I'm going to do any more polishing that I need to do. Get that all shined up real bright, and then I'm going to epoxy my embellishment in place. I think that just like anything else, when you're learning something new, you're going to get frustrated, and I think with fork tine bending, some of the frustration lies in creating the tool marks. The more you do it and the better you get at it, the less tool marks you're going to leave over time. And I'm going to show you a couple of methods you can use for removing those tool marks. I'm not sure exactly how much you can see, but there really isn't very many tool marks here. If you already have your design developed in your head, there's going to be less chance of tool marks because you're going to be able to bend, and not play around a lot. The more you play around and try and manipulate the tines, the more you're going to create tool marks. So I think it's important to have your design already set in your head. So, but for the little tool marks that we have, mostly here on the tips, I'm going to use the mini grinder to smooth that down. Now keep in mind that the fiber wheel is an abrasive wheel, and if you leave it on the fiber wheel too long, you will take the silver plating off. So we're really only going to touch that lightly, just where we have the tool marks. This is also going to polish at the same time. If you take off some of the plating, don't throw it away. You'd be surprised how many customers really like that more weathered and worn look. A piece that you may not be happy with, another customer may absolutely love. So, it actually looks pretty good there. Now there's also another way that you can remove tool marks, and that's with rubber abrasive wheels. This set you can purchase at widgetsupply.com. It comes with 3 different grits, and these wheels are a rubber wheel that's been impregnated with a grit, so they are abrasive. Again, because they are abrasive, they do you will be able to take off the plating if you do too much manipulation with them. Always start with the least abrasive of the different choices here, which in this case is going to be the blue. You're going to use these on your flex shaft Dremel tool and remove the tool marks there. So at this point, I'm going to do any more polishing that I need to do. Get that all shined up real bright, and then I'm going to epoxy my embellishment in place. I've got this all shined up and it's ready to accept the embellishment. If you rough up the surface that you're going to put your glue or your epoxy on, it will stay better. Your embellishment will stay better rather than putting it up against a shiny surface or a surface to which you have put in Renaissance wax or any type of silver polish. So my glue of choice is E6000. So after I've roughed that up, dusted it off, you don't want to have fingerprints on there because your fingers may be oily or dirty, and that's not going to help your embellishment to stay. So once I've decided where it's going to be, I'm going to put epoxy on both sides, both on this and on this. Then let them set for 2 minutes until they're tacky, then press them together. Your adhesion will be much better if you allow both sides to dry slightly before you add your embellishment. E6000 is a really awesome adhesive. You don't need a whole lot. You do want to spread it out nicely. You can see there's not like big gobs of it on there. And then we're going to add it onto the back side of our embellishment. And we're going to let both of these set for a couple of minutes. Now that has been epoxied on there, or E6000, and it's been allowed to dry overnight. And what you really end up with is a truly gorgeous, stunning piece that your customers will absolutely adore. Always finish off your projects with Renaissance wax, with a coating of Renaissance wax. It not only gives a protective coating, it shines it up, it helps reduce fingerprints, and also keeps your piece from tarnishing so quickly. So always recommend any of your jewelry to finish with a coating of Renaissance wax. We do carry that on the website. So really a truly beautiful piece. And have fun creating this yourself in your own studio.